when you walk through the grocery store's front door and all of a sudden the smell hits you of freshly baked French bread? What if I told you you could make that same French bread in your kitchen today? What is up, you guys? It's Carly here, and you are officially cooking with Carly. To make your French bread, all you need are just a few simple ingredients. We have all-purpose flour here, some yeast, sugar, oil, and salt. Really, that's it. Just the basics here for absolutely delicious, fluffy, perfect French bread. The first thing we're going to do is get our yeast alive and kicking. Now, normally I would do this in this bowl, but just so you can see what's going on, I've got a smaller bowl here. We're going to take some of our extremely warm water. We're looking for about temperature-wise 100, 110 to 120 max, so that we don't kill our yeast with too hot of water. We're going to just eyeball about a half a cup, sprinkle in our yeast, and it needs something to eat. It likes sugar, and that's what will activate it. So we've got our measured out sugar here, and I'm just going to sprinkle in a little bit, give it a quick stir, and let it sit for about 5 minutes. And in that 5 to 10 minutes range, we will see this yeast start to bubble up and activate. And that is exactly what we want to see. If the yeast never bubbles up, then you know your yeast isn't good. It's not going to work. Your dough won't rise, and you'll have very flat, dense bread. While the yeast is activating here, I just want to remind you to definitely punch that like button and smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. And comment below, tell me what your favorite thing is to eat with your French bread. I personally love to eat French bread with like a hearty stew. Our yeast is all nice and activated here. You can see that there's a nice foamy layer. So I'm going to go ahead and dump this into my stand mixer. Speaking of my stand mixer here, do you have to have a stand mixer to make this? No, you don't. You can, if you need to, stir everything with a wooden spoon until it's so thick that you can't do it anymore with a spoon. Then turn it out onto your counter and just start kneading. Our remaining water will go into the mixer, along with the rest of the sugar, some oil, our salt, and about half of the flour. Now, this is a lot of flour here. This is 6 cups of flour. This recipe does make 2 really large loaves of French bread. If you're only needing 1 loaf of French bread, feel free to half this recipe. It works great to half the recipe. Normally what I do is I will make a loaf for myself and then take a loaf to a neighbor. We are just going to let this knead until all of this flour is combined and then slowly add the second half. The final texture of this dough is going to be slightly sticky. I will show you what it looks like. All of the flour is incorporated now. I'm going to just let the mixer knead this dough for about 5 minutes. Our dough is ready. So you should be able to pull a little bit off and be able to roll it into a ball in your fingers without it sticking. The next step in this bread recipe is to let it rest and rise a couple of times, and we're going to knead it in between. Now, classically, what you will do is you will let it rest for 10 minutes and you'll knead it, 3 or 4 times, fold it in on each other and let it rest for another 10 minutes and repeat that for an entire hour. I'm going to speed up this process quite a bit by using my Instant Pot to help that proofing process go a lot faster. I'm gonna go grab my Instant Pot and I'll show you how to do it. A lot of people don't know this about your Instant Pot. If you have a yogurt button, it keeps the inside of the Instant Pot at perfect temperature to rise your dough quickly. The first thing you're going to want to do is spray the inside of your Instant Pot with either nonstick spray, or you can put a little bit of canola oil, olive oil, something like that in there. And then you're just going to put your dough inside of your Instant Pot and turn it on to yogurt normal. If it's on low, it won't proof fast enough. If it's on high, you're going to cook your bread dough. Then we're just going to put a lid on here and let it rise for 10 minutes. We're going to knead it, rise for 10 minutes. We're going to knead it. We're going to do that 3 times. We're going to knead it 3 times. And on the 4th time, we're going to pull that out and shape our bread. All of you out there with an Instant Pot but no yogurt button, I know you're thinking, how can I do this? And this actually goes for people who don't have an Instant Pot as well. How you're going to do this quickly is by basically making your oven into a mini Instant Pot. Turn your oven on to 200 degrees for 5 minutes. Let it warm up for 5 minutes, then turn that oven off. Just cover your bread dough that's in your bowl, cover it up with plastic wrap, a towel, something like that, and put the entire bowl into your oven, and the oven will really help that yeast rise quickly, and you can knead every 10 minutes 3 times, then on the 4th time we can shape the dough. So you can use your oven if you don't have an Instant Pot. It's been 10 minutes now, so our dough is nice and warm. So what I'm going to do is just knead it a little bit, fold it over on itself just a couple of times, and then put the lid back on and let it sit for another 10 minutes. Like I said before, we're going to do that 3 times, and on that 4th time, we're not going to knead it. We'll just dump it out and shape it into our loaf. Okay, our dough is ready, and it is huge and beautiful. So what I'm going to do is just dump this out onto the counter, so nice and warm. And I'm just going to flatten this with my hands here. You may need a little bit of flour. We're going to start with our largest side here and kind of tug and pinch it in. So we're rolling like this until we get a nice long shape, and we're going to fold these ends in just like so. Now we're going to transfer this to a cookie sheet. We'll want to line this cookie sheet with either parchment paper or silicone baking mat. We'll separate the yolk from the white here. We'll whisk this white with a fork just a little bit. We'll brush the top of and sides of this loaf with this egg white. This is what will give that classic shiny look to our French bread. If you don't brush it with the egg yolk, it'll just look like a normal loaf of bread. It will still taste great. The egg yolk doesn't affect the taste at all. It just affects the look of the final product. Again, this recipe does make 2 loaves. I'm just showing you one here because it's a little bit more manageable. So you can bake both at the same time using convection oven, or you can put 2 loaves on one pan, not diagonal. Next thing to do is grab a sharp knife, and we're going to just score at an angle 3 or 4 cuts into this bread loaf. Here is our loaf of French bread, all ready for the final rise. I'm just going to let this sit on my stovetop while the oven preheats. It will get a little bit bigger, and then we are going to bake it. We're preheating our oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to bake at 425 for 10 minutes and 10 minutes only. After that 10 minutes, we're leaving our bread in the oven, but we're going to take down our temperature to 375 and bake for another 20 minutes. Why do we change the temperature mid-bake? That is so we get that nice, thick, hard, crunchy crust that is classic to a French bread. Best news ever, the French bread is done. I just pulled it out of the oven. Let me bring it over here and show you what we're working with. I'm so excited. Okay, this is piping hot, but listen. That's that hard crust that we want on the French bread, and it is so fluffy inside. We probably should wait about 10 minutes before we cut into this bread so that it doesn't get all gummy. Using a long serrated knife, we're going to cut ourselves, I don't want to burn myself, it's still really warm, a nice slice of this French bread. You can hear how crusty it is, just perfect, classic to what we know and want for the French bread. Are you ready for this reveal? Come closer. Doo-doo-doo. Here we go. Here is our French bread. Oh, it's so hot inside. but it is steamy and just so soft and fluffy. Look at that. Absolutely delicious. Open up. Oh, not even close. So next time that craving hits for homemade bread, make sure this is the recipe you make. It is fast, easy, only like what, 5-6 ingredients tops, and your home is going to smell exactly like a bakery.